Hello and welcome to another edition of the Lockton Marine Podcast. My name is Anders Johannessen and I'm here with Espen Larsen-Hakkebo, who's the Chief Technical Officer and co-founder of Brim Explorer. I don't think I'm going to give an introduction to Brim. I'm going to leave that to you. So if you could tell us a bit about who you are and what you do here.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. Brim Explorer is a tourism company, first and foremost, where we offer ocean experiences on board our hybrid electric and electric passenger vessels. In addition to that, we're a tech company because we saw there is a huge gap in expectations and need in the market for green solutions for ocean-going vessels or for any vessel. And what is actually available and what's classed and what's ready to put on board a passenger ship. So we started a daughter company also at Brim Tech to develop technology for electrification of vessels.
Nice. The name Brim, is there a story behind that? Because I don't recognize it.
Well, you should, because it's an old Norse word.
Brim. I'm not that old.
You're not that old, no. Brim means breaking wave.
Nice.
So just the tip of the wave as it breaks, that's a brim. So we thought that would be a good name for our company. We're here to break waves in the maritime industry, and we're here to break waves in the tourism industry.
Nice. So when did it start?
We started in 2018, where we were designing our first vessel. And negotiating with a shipyard, ultimately started building in 2018 and built our first vessel that we had delivered in 2019, October, and started tourism operations in Tromsø in northern Norway, where we took our guests whale watching and northern lights hunting.
Nice. And so from the start, the technology seems to have been really important to the value proposition, that these vessels are battery powered or hybrid, or electric or hybrid electric. What does hybrid electric mean in this context?
That means trouble.
Right.
And I think that's a lot of the motivation for having the tech arm of the company as well. When we started building when we designed the first vessel, we wanted a fully electric ship. But the technology at that time, in 2018, wasn't mature enough to give us that with the range that we wanted. And as we were designing the vessel, the whales that we wanted to take our guests to see, they changed their feeding ground from being very close to shore to being further out. Right. So we discovered quite early that we needed to have an extra range, and then the options on the market were quite scarce in technology choices, and we ended up with technology compromises that we ultimately didn't necessarily like. Right. And we saw here there is a room for improvement, and speaking to our suppliers, speaking to producers of electric motors, of inverters and converters for electric power, we saw that here we need to do something. We need to actually actively take part in developing the components that we need. A lot of the components are available, but they're not marine grade. They're not classed by Classification Society. Ergo, you can't use them on board a ship. So that was our first hurdle, to kind of map what are the requirements to the equipment that we want to use, and look for equipment that would fall into that category, adapt it to marine use, and redesign where we needed to bring the parts to the market. And we've been very successful in doing so. We've now introduced direct drive propulsion motors in 3 of our vessels that we have classed with both Bureau Veritas and DNV. And we see a huge market for those solutions as well. So other ship owners have come to us to ask if they can buy our motors.
What do you say then?
Of course. We have already sold a few, and we're working with some big names in the industry and integrating them into water jets, so direct drive water jets. We're looking at other ferry segments as well. And So our value proposition in the tech is that we're removing parts that you don't need. In the direct drive propulsion setup, we're removing the reduction gear, which means that you're cutting 3 to 5% of your mechanical losses on your drivetrain, and you're getting an electric motor that's more efficient than what you would have on your gear. Right. So you're eliminating losses in your propulsion setup. And when it comes to electric range, eliminating losses is really important.
Yeah, and it probably adds another layer to the sustainability of the operation. So it's not only kind to the environment and to where you're operating, but it's also kind to the vessels, right? Which probably gives them a longer life, I would have thought.
Yes, an electric motor requires a lot less maintenance than a diesel motor, first and foremost, but also less maintenance than a gear. So if you can eliminate both the diesel engine and the gear, you're already come a long way. You've also saved a lot of weight, which does something to your energy consumption, which is good. So it's what we call in our company a positive design spiral, where you often when you design a ship, and as we've seen it a lot in electric and hybrid electric ships, as you add components, your weight increases. And you need more batteries. As you add more batteries, your weight increases even more, and you're in a negative design spiral. So we try to turn that around by looking into each system on board the vessel and each component that we put on board, with an aim to reduce both maintenance, weight, and increase efficiency. And we've been very successful in that so far.
So you mentioned Tromsø. I've had the pleasure of being on one of your vessels in Svalbard, which means that you are in areas which are environmentally sensitive, like the Arctic. There's wildlife, there's also a highly sensitive plant environment, the sea environment. Has that always been the idea, that you're going to give accessibility to your passengers to something that they might not have seen in the same way?
Yes. When it comes to sensitive areas, it wasn't originally or necessarily that, but it was more creating ocean ambassadors and sharing our passion for the ocean through experiences. So up until now, we've had approximately 500,000-600,000 guests on board our vessels. And each and every guest that comes on board our vessel comes with an open mind. So they're perceptive to what we are telling them. That means we can both tell them about or show them the nature that we're there to see, but we can also spark technology optimism. We can share about our technology. We can share about the state of the ocean. Most of the guides that we use are are marine biologists. So we're sharing a story about life in the ocean as well as the nature around you. And we've designed the vessels in a way that every seat that you have on board, no matter where you are on board the vessel, you have first row seats to actually experience nature outside the vessel. We have panoramic windows with a 360 degrees view around the vessel, so it's a vessel designed to experience nature. And when it comes to operating in areas where in pristine areas, with the electric propulsion, we're creating less noise. We've opted for larger propellers than what is normal for our vessel size, because from standard propeller knowledge, a bigger, slower rotating propeller is more efficient, but a bigger, slow rotating propeller also creates less noise. Right. Which gives a very good link into how we operate. We're not trying to leave marks in the nature. We're trying to reduce our footprint, both in terms of carbon emissions, but also in terms of how we affect the nature where we operate.
So on that, so you mentioned early on about the impact that you saw from your hybrid solution on wildlife. And then when you bring your battery solution, presumably you see less impact, right? So you wouldn't have seen the whales changing their feeding grounds because they would be far less sensitive to a vessel that's makes less noise. And
just to correct there, the whales changed feeding grounds because of the traveling pattern of the herring. So that was not because we entered the market, but they were just moving.
That's
and
an important clarification.
Yeah. so the whales moved, and we had to kind of be able to reach where they were now feeding. So that was the whales are quite technology agnostic in that sense.
Okay.
Our crew claim that because our vessels are more silent, more often than not, the whales approach our vessels. I'm not going to make that claim because they also follow the herring. They follow they have their own way of behaving when they're swimming in the areas they're swimming. However, how we approach the whales, I think that's of key importance. And I'm talking a lot about whales because whales is a very big part of our product portfolio, but we're also doing a lot of other things. I'll introduce you to our other products as well. But for the whale watching, which is the product where we're closest encountering or with closest encounter with animals, we have a set of ethical guidelines that we have both adopted from other whale watching industries, but also adapted to our own operation in terms of how we approach the animals, how we don't stay too long with the animals, and how we actually behave around them. And that's very important to how we operate. So our vessels that are hybrid electric, when we're approaching the whales, we're turning off all diesel engines to reduce our own noise footprint in the ocean, because noise is, believe it or not, very important to the marine life. And by turning off any noisy component on board the vessel, we emit less noise into the ocean, which is good when we're approaching animals. There are other boats in the area that does not do the same, and they also see the whales. So it's not that we have the magic recipe for getting whales to us, but at least we're not, or we're doing our effort to reduce our impact as much as we can when we are out there looking for wildlife.
Which is an interesting perspective. So you believe firmly that your approach and your technology and the low impact that you have on your surroundings means that it improves or helps the animal's welfare, the whale welfare, as it were. But
I wouldn't claim that we improve animal welfare, because we're still there. As an operator, we're still in on the water. So we're rather being more careful in not approaching the animals too close, not trying to create as little disturbance as we can, and reducing the noise from the vessel is a big part of that approach.
But as opposed to, because some of your competitors or some of the other tour operators will operate very old vessels with very little focus on technology, diesel powered, probably both heavy on emissions and noise. Is there anything you want to see from a regulatory perspective? Because it seems strange that both these things can exist at the same time. That in the space of a day or a week or a month, you will have both a very high-tech, very quiet, very, very careful vessel approaching the animals, and you will have a very noisy, old-fashioned one.
I think when it comes to whale watching, as one subject, regulation is needed. I'm not sure if emissions is the way to regulate whale watching. I think first and foremost we should regulate how it's allowed to actually behave around wild animals. We have seen some bad examples on how other operators approach the whales, chase the whales. They chase the whales, and then they have divers on board jumping on top of the whales, trying to get as much close contact with the whales as they can. I see that as more problematic than the emission profile. That said, we all as an industry needs to move towards lower emission and zero emission solutions. And here we are seeing some regulations in Norway where from the 1st of January 2026, as we're recording this is in December, it's not 25, it's not very long from now, So from the 1st of January 26, regulation is imposed in Norway where all vessels under 10,000 gross tons or thereabouts entering our World Heritage fjords needs to be emission free. So zero tailpipe emissions from these vessels. That's changing a lot. For a short period, maybe there will be some dispensations or maybe some vessels that won't be allowed to enter into an area.
Yeah.
But we are seeing a technology shift. We are planning now to introduce our new vessels in those areas in 2027. And we are seeing our competitors as well scrambling to find the right solutions to be able to continue operating in these pristine areas. And so in terms of regulation, that's where I see a regulatory push actually helping by having a regulatory push towards zero emission zones that are attractive to visit. You're creating an incentive in the industry to change, and by creating that incentive, some actors will do their bare minimum to be allowed to operate in those areas, and some actors, where we come in, is trying to see this as an opportunity to develop the technology that's needed to go even further and to eliminate all emissions altogether, and that's our goal now. And we've made a bold statement. We have a couple of hybrid electric vessels, and we're saying that we will never build a hybrid electric vessel again.
Right.
And we will also retrofit all our existing vessels to be fully electric.
Okay. Yeah. So, compared to where you thought you were going to be in 2025 when you started this in 2018, would you say you're further along, or you're as per your expectations? Because I think you've consistently, put up record numbers of guests, right? So by all accounts, it's going well.
Yes, it's going well. We've been profitable since we started, and taking into account that we started 5 months before, or we started our operations 5 months before the pandemic hit, and we still kind of we managed our way through the pandemics without losing too much money, and then we've picked up and become profitable again after that. In terms of what the goals that we set ourselves, it's been we're far beyond the goals that we set, but we did say in our first business plan that our ambition is to become a global leader within the field that we operate, and that means that we needed to take some bold steps, and in that terms we're not there yet,
right.
But in Norway we are. So.
Does that signify that there will be expansion plans moving forward, both in terms of where you operate and what your fleet looks like?
I couldn't possibly comment.
What is the profile of your guests now in terms of demography? Who are they? Are they international, Norwegian?
They're international. I think 97% of our guests are international guests.
Right.
So it's international tourism. Our biggest markets are those closest to us, so the European markets. But we get overseas visitors as well. But yeah, we see a growth potential both in terms of destinations here in Norway, and we're starting building 2 new vessels now to introduce into the western coast of Norway, where our competitors have been able to play.
It is the nicest one I've heard.
Yeah, have you been to northern Norway yet? I think that all areas of Norway has their own charm. We're very successful also in Oslo, where we have more we have fjord cruises, but with a more of a city feel. You're seeing the city skyline of Oslo. You're experiencing the fjord outside Oslo, sailing through islands and skerries and canoes and kayaks and other ferries. So we have a range in our portfolio, but our tours in northern Norway are a lot more. I wouldn't say extreme, because they're quite comfortable, and you come dressed as you are, and there's warm saloons, and you're kind of well taken care of.
Yeah.
But the nature we operate in is more extreme than what you have here in Oslo.
Can you talk a bit about because surely, even though it's gone really well in a short span of time, there would have been some challenges, right? Could you talk us through some of the operational challenges, maybe some of the technical ones?
When we started, as I said, we saw there was room for improvement in the technical setup, and we had some issues with our gears, our reduction gears on the diesel, or it was a newly developed gear, PTO gear with both an electric motor and a diesel motor connected to the same gear with one output. From a well-renowned gear manufacturer, so nothing wrong with the gear, but we had some startup issues with this new gear, which showed us that we are very vulnerable to maintenance and downtime caused by technical issues. So there were some operational hiccups in the beginning. Another thing, we would have always wanted our boats to be a little faster, a little more energy efficient. So some of our tours ended up being longer in time than what we planned for before we had a vessel, which meant that this was a strain to our manning because the days became longer and we were like pushing into what's acceptable of a day's work. So we had to change our whole setup after the first season and introduce two shifts in one day to be able to offer the product range that we wanted to our guests. These are kind of learnings that we had to make and adapt to the equipment that we have. The biggest operational hurdle was still what happened in 2021, where we had a battery fire on board our vessels, or on board one of our vessels, where we had through the ventilation intake to the battery room there came water that came in contact with exposed parts of the batteries, and there was a fire. That was a huge wake-up call for us and also for other players in the industry, where about kind of what we're doing, introducing batteries into vessels and what precautions we have to make.
Were there guests on board at the time?
No, there were no guests on board. And after this, both the classification societies and the Maritime Authority are kind of changing their approach to battery installations in vessels, which is a good thing. We've been very open about what happened, so we can share our experiences both with the insurance part of the industry and with the operational part of the industry, the operators. And we're talking with the regulatory bodies as well to kind of align and know that when we're now introducing batteries into our next generation vessels, how do we do this in the safest way possible? And that's a very good part of the job, actually, to be both listened to, because we have an experience, both bad and good experiences. We have tested different battery technologies on board our vessels, and we see it as an opportunity as one of the early movers. We're becoming quite a few now, but one of the early movers in the industry. We're able to share experiences and actually move the industry forwards, because there is no doubt that batteries is the future for a lot of use cases for vessels, but it has to be done the right way.
So because there's a combination of factors here of new technology, and you've had some lessons learned, and you operate in some very not only sensitive areas from an environmental perspective, but also very, very difficult areas from, like, if something should happen, and it doesn't have to be a fire, but it could be a navigational issue, and you're in by Nordensjødrevet on Svalbard, and you're miles away from every piece of civilization. What does your contingency planning look like here?
Well, we've been working a lot on the contingency planning, and on Svalbard, which is very, very special, we have operational limitations where we cannot travel further than we need to be within so and so long distance of a safe port.
Right.
And we're doing regular exercises with rescue teams on Svalbard, kind of to know they know how to rescue people from our vessel with a helicopter. We know there's a lot of contingency planning and training going on in the background.
Yeah.
But also a lot of risk assessments and how to respond, how to plan for events. And Svalbard is actually very special. It's we had to build the vessel with a gun locker because we have to carry a gun. Because if we need to evacuate on into rafts, the guide or the captain needs to actually carry a gun.
Polar bear's licking its lips.
Yeah. So that's a part of the contingency planning on Svalbard is also that all our crew undergo regular shooting range training. So it's a little bit special for a tourism vessel operator, but there you have it. Yeah.
But it's pretty clear that you provide a unique experience to your guests, which is why they keep flooding to your vessels. Where can people experience? Where can they find the Brim experience now?
Today we are available in Oslo, where we have the more of a low-key city cruises. In Tromsø we have operation all year, but our high season there is the Northern Lights and whale season, which is in the winter time. We operate in the Lofoten Peninsula from February till October. So it's we started with a 4-month season, and now we've expanded to 9 months of the year, which also means that area is growing in popularity, which is good for us, but also we bring a new product to the area, which is in demand. So there we go to see a fjord called Troll Fjord, which was carved out of the mountain by a troll. So and it gives you some really good nature experiences. The Lofoten Peninsula is a peninsula of very high mountains that goes directly down into the water, and a lot of islands scattered over a large area with high mountains. So it's from a nature perspective, it's a beautiful place to do ocean excursions. We are in Bodø, where we just started operations. It's been a challenging operations because there we are. We're sharing our vessel with a ferry company, where we're actually on contingency as a reserve vessel if they have a breakdown.
Right.
Which has been demanding in some sense, but it's also been a good way of entering a new market. And our most exotic destination for now is Svalbard, as we were talking about, where there are polar bears and glaciers and a lot of whales and polar foxes and reindeers that we see from the vessel. And as I said, we're also now starting to build 2 new vessels that we will introduce into the western coast of Norway. So we'll start with Stavanger and Geiranger, which is one of the World Heritage Fjords.
Wonderful. Espen, thank you very much for joining us. And to everyone listening, we look forward to welcoming you again on the Lockton Marine Podcast. Goodbye.